We are live, man. A day late because my guy Coach had a Sunday game this week. But Coach, man, don't you love it when we miss a day? Nothing happens that we really have to talk about. We just got to sit here and look at the people. No big news today at all, man. How we feeling, Coach?
Man, man, it was a long bus ride home with that one. But I've been beat worse and was able to get up off the mat. So, yesterday was a day to get up off the mat. Today was a standing 8 count. Let's get going, and we're moving forward. As the official said, come to me. We came to the ref, ran around today. So, back in good spirits, man. We know what we got to do. Everything's still in front of us. So not all is lost other than the butt kicking that we took. But, we still have a major goal in front of us. So, hopefully the kids continue to get better through the week. There's nothing we can do about what just happened. Lick our wounds and move on. And that's what we're doing.
I know there's not much positive to pull from Sunday afternoon, but I mean, the one silver lining is, like you said, there's nothing you have to say this week to remind them that was if you could build a perfect wake up call, it was that.
And that's the silver lining and everything, like you just said, is the fact that we have this game. That's next. It's we got caught. I'll be the first to say we got caught. I won't even call it a trap game. We got caught by a very good program. I think people don't realize, and you will because you kind of follow them as well, but the bounces that went against them for 5-6 weeks didn't go against them versus us. Not going to take away anything from them, but the bounces that had been costing them games, they didn't have those bounces. And, those kids fought and they kept the pedal to the metal, didn't give us room to breathe. When they jumped on us, they just kept swinging. And, hats off to Coach McKinnell in that program.
Yeah, I mean, for people who aren't SWAC people in the show, I know I got a lot of variety of people who root for different conferences in the that watch the show.
And we thank you guys.
Yeah, definitely thank you guys. But Texas Southern was up, 14-21 nothing over FAMU at one point. 2
14.
points away from beating Jackson on the road. I mean, they were dominated the game against Southern. 50 seconds away,
basically.
Yeah, 50 seconds away from beating Southern. So, I mean, this is a team that had a lot of close losses. But, Coach, we got to start here. We know the recap show is usually to recap the games, but, man, there's just been so much news that came out today. We'll start here. After only 2 seasons, not even 2 full seasons, Southern officially has fired head coach Eric Dooley. The university announced that decision earlier today. There is a press conference tomorrow, 10:30 a.m., where Roman Banks and the rest of that administration will speak. Coach, an interesting tidbit here before we get into this. Assistant head coach Terrence Graves will serve as the interim head coach. He will officially be the interim head coach for the Bayou Classic for Southern. He also coached as the interim head coach for Grambling after Fobbs was fired. He will be the first coach in the history of the Bayou Classic to be the head coach for both teams in this historic rivalry.
That's bittersweet history right there.
Yeah.
What a way to make the history books, What a way to make the history books in that classic.
I mean, listen, Coach, I don't even know where to start here. I mean, Dooley, 12-10.
Yeah, I was gonna let you 9-6,
9-6 in conference play. He led Southern to the SWAC championship last season. It was a loss to Jackson on the road, which Jackson was the better team, obviously. But they sit at 5-5, Coach. They still have a winning record in the SWAC right now, but they have not beaten a team over 500 this year. I guess it's the downside to that record. I'll say this, Coach, because I think this goes deeper than wins and losses. Anytime you see a coach fired after just 2 seasons, it to me, it has to be something behind the scenes where there was a disconnect between him, the administration, the players, something had to go wrong outside of just wins and losses because, Coach, you've coached in this conference a long time. Regardless of what people want to say, he backed into a SWAC championship. He backed into a division title. It's hard to win in today's age of college football. And so to me, Coach, I think this is a story of a program making a hire, not getting what they necessarily thought, and that they really didn't care about the record. I really do think there was a chemistry issue behind the scenes. I need your thoughts, though, Coach. You're in this industry. You've recruited a lot of these players. You know a lot of the coaching staff. When you heard the news come across your phone, because I know I texted you when this was announced, what was your initial thoughts as someone who's currently in the business of coaching?
Can I get on my soapbox?
Yeah. Hey, take it away.
Okay.
Take it away.
Let me get on my soapbox. Nah, man, in this business, man, it's and we understand it's a what have you done for me lately business. And lately, obviously, does not mean within the last year, within the last couple months. It means like within weeks. And, to go back and look, and I want to address something. You said that and I heard the same thing, that they backed into a championship. I don't know how you back into a championship. You play who you play. Other teams play who they play, and the outcomes are the outcomes. Just so happened last year they were on the good side of the outcome, that they were in the championship game. There's 12 teams, as one of the coaches just said in the coach's office. There's 12 teams in this league, and two at the end of the day, there's two that everybody else is home watching, playing for a championship. And just less than a year ago, they were the program, one of the two programs that everybody was home watching play in a championship game. You come back this year, each year is a new year in this business. And I think, that gets lost. No team is the same from year to year. And you know that from playing, yourself. No team is the same from year to year, because you lose people, you lose coaches. It's just not the same. And I think sometimes, and I had it wrote down, and let me get to it, because when I text you, I was like, this is something I want to get off my heart, in the business. There's times when the expectations don't meet the realizations. Everybody has expectations, from the coaches, from the players, to everybody inside, to the fans. You can start every year, and if you want to be realistic, and write this down, because we can do a show at the beginning of next year, you can go through every conference, every team, and realistically say that this team has a chance, this team has a chance, this team has a chance.
We did it this year.
Yeah.
You remember? Yeah, we had that segment this year.
That. But we didn't dive into it like there's absolutely no chance, because we're not those guys. But those programs or teams that are competing every year, you're not going to win it every year. We went on a run, man, from 2014 to 2018, of winning the East, every year. And it got harder and harder and harder and harder. And for the last 3 years, counting this year, the last 3 years, it's come down to the last week of the season. And we've missed. Nobody remembers the back part of that. Nobody remembers winning 2014, 2015, the whole thing. Then again, 2018, 2019. Nobody remembers that. It's all right now, blow it up, we got to reload, we blah, 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 blah. I get it. But at the same token, when we're talking about a program, and I'm not speaking about any one program in general, so I don't want anybody lighting up the comments. Keep a track of the comments, man. Make sure they're not tearing me up. But if said school hasn't given said coach everything needed to be a juggernaut year after year after year, I think the expectations have to be real. They've got to meet the realization. And you hit on it earlier, with this day and age of college football, man, it's every freaking day, every freaking week, every freaking month from within. You've got to recruit not only the guys that you have, you've got to recruit other guys to come in. So for said program who was in championship game last year, I get it. You come back, we were this close. Said team that we played last year basically blew up. So it should be our year. Everybody else is saying the same thing. But at the end of the day, the ball bounces one way or another, and it doesn't bounce your way. But you struggle to put matching chairs in your meeting room, but you come up with close to, well, really $500,000, over $500,000 to give somebody and say, hey,
is it 620?
620?
Yeah.
$620,000. Here's the check. Don't come back on Wednesday. I don't understand the expectation. What expectations did you really have? And did he know those? I mean, every coach is, if there's a coach that's telling you they don't want to win, they're not telling you the truth, because you get in this business to win. And I think I said it on one show before. Once you win a championship, that becomes like a drug, man. Like, you want it. You want it every year. You expected it every year. And when you don't get it, no one's harder on you than you. But I think sometimes as fans, because I'm the same way, I just don't understand why my Washington Commanders can't win. I don't understand it. But at the root of it, we can't just continue to blow it up every year, because that didn't work. That hasn't worked. At some point, we've got to start forming continuity. In the second year, after coming off a championship year, I don't get it. That just doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like there has to be more of a backstory, because we're talking about over $600,000, and we're not talking about oil money. Again, not counting anybody's money, but Jimbo Fisher got let go, and by next Tuesday, he is going to pick up a check for $19 million, or else. We ain't got that kind of money, I don't think. But I just think we as fans, man, we have to sit back, and it has to become a realization that is real and not fantasy. Everybody wants to win, but every year is tough, man. Every year is tough. We took that butt kicking a couple of days ago. I'm sure there's people, I know there's people that are saying they shouldn't even be able to coach this Jackson State game. I get it. But the realization of the matter is that we're still able to play for a championship. We've got to take care of what we've got to take care of. But there's people that really want Coach gone. And Coach has won championships. He's been in the hunt of it. And that's all you want. You just want an opportunity. And it's tough to get an opportunity if you get to year two, not even fully through year two. And, folks say, hey, thank you, but we've had enough. So, it's double-edged. I don't know who you get next, because that guy's got to be thinking in the back of his mind. He's got to be thinking, well, what happens to me in year two if I come in there in year one and finish second in the West? Year two is looking like I'm headed to a second-place finish again. What happens then? So you're going to get one or two guys, a guy that's hesitant, or you're going to get a guy that says, you know what, give me $620,000 on Tuesday. And as Ed Orgeron said, what door you want me to leave? You want me to go out the side door? I'll go out the side door. Whatever, it's just tough business, man. We know it getting in, but I think this day and age it's gotten even tougher, because everybody sees the shiny things of what's going on around you. And, as fans, we want that. But, at the end of the day, we can't all have Peyton Manning playing quarterback. We've got to make work with what we have and make do. And I just, this has just been puzzling. And I just can't wait for the backstory, because it's got to be more. It's got to be more. Because if they win Saturday, they're still in the hunt. They're game Saturday. If they have won the game this past Saturday.
Yeah, if they would have won this past weekend, they would have still been there. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have still been in the hunt.
That's the question is it a situation of behind the scenes stuff, or is it a situation of losing the wrong games? Because we've talked about this. There's some places that have games circled that you have to win. You look at 3 straight losses against Jackson is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of Southern alum and Southern boosters. They lose to FAM twice. Your only other 2 SWAC losses under Dooley was the loss to Texas Southern last year on the road, that 24-0 loss, which that's a bad loss. But then you lose to Alabama State on the road to start the season. They go on to lose to Miles the next week. But Bama State now, that loss does not look as bad as it did earlier this season. Yeah. Bama State's won 5 straight. If Bama State beats PV this weekend, They're going to finish the season with 6 consecutive wins, including a win on the road at Jackson and a win over PV, who is going for the SWAC West title this weekend. They're going to finish second in the East this year.
And they were ready to pull the plug on Coach there a short time ago.
Just a few weeks ago. Coach, there was, 2 weeks before the Magic City Classic, Alabama State's going into the Jackson game. A&M's going into the Grambling game.
Yep.
We were talking about if they both lose, is the Magic City Classic going to be the now? E-Rob saved his job. There's another conversation going on right now in Huntsville after Bethune-Cookman just ran for 400 yards on those Bulldogs on what's going to happen in Huntsville. Yeah, that's a whole different conversation over there.
Yeah.
For Southern though, Coach, I want to ask you this, okay? I went back and I was doing some research. I talked to, and I'll call him an old school Southern alum. He's been around the program, like he's got a lot of history in Baton Rouge, and he told me that is Trevis Barry really the guy that Southern wants? He said, in theory, it might sound good, but here's why he's skeptical, and he kind of got me thinking. Coach, you were in the SWAC at that time. Mm-hmm. Odoms was there. Trey Oliver was there. Matt Leone was there. Trevis Barry was there.
Yep.
Southern fans were not a fan of Trevis Barry's offenses for a long time in Baton Rouge.
Yep.
They wanted him gone. A lot of fans wanted Trevis Barry fired from Southern as offensive coordinator. He goes on to Benedict, does great things. I'm with you in that point where if they go and hire Trevis Barry, are we in this position 2 years from now if Trevis Barry doesn't win the SWAC?
That's a real question.
Are we legit, me and you on this stream, 2 years in November saying, well, man, Southern just, fired Trevis Barry because, he finished second and third in the West, and he can't beat Jackson. He can't beat FAMU. He couldn't get past Alcorn or whoever else is at the top of the SWAC in 2 years. Are we having the same conversation 2 years from now, or is Southern going to take the time to go through this process, hire a coach that they're willing to give 3 to 4 years? And this isn't like an attack on, Southern, but it's an honest conversation because, Coach, you're in the business. When you get a job offer, when your agent gets called and says, man, Coach, we got this opportunity for you. Here's what we're going to offer. Here's all this. Is that not something you look at? Like, hey, if I go here, are they going to fire me next year if this benchmark isn't met, or am I going to have time to bring in my players? Am I going to have time to bring in my scheme? Or am I going to have, are they going to support me the proper way? Because there's a coach right now in Texas who we're going to talk about next, who I've heard he hasn't really got all the resources that he should. And there was a rumor he was fired today. They walked it back. Apparently they're telling players he's fired. I mean, it's just kind of chaos right now in college football. But Coach, I'll ask you this. If they hire Trevis Barry, are you 100% sure they're going to give him 3 to 4 years to rebuild this program?
I mean, they can say that, but history would beg to differ. You said that time period that he was there, and I remember because we wound up in the championship game 2 years in a row versus that same staff, and we heard the rumblings about it, and he is who he is. His offense is his offense. It's not a light them up type deal, but it's not exactly paint drying either. But they've really got to ask themselves, what do they want in the next person? Do they want a defensive guy? Do they want an offensive guy? And if it is an offensive guy, what type of offensive guy do you want? Are we back to this celebrity hire thing? Which I hope not. Nothing against celebrities, but I hope not, because you would definitely be back here in 2 years from now if you go get someone who's not in the college business, so to speak, in the coaching business. I won't say college, in the coaching business, because it takes a different person now to understand where we are in this climate, man, because at the end of the day, you said it, I've said it, I could go out there and catch for 200 yards a game for Alcorn State. And I guarantee you, after game 10 and I'm at 1,500 yards receiving, there's somebody high up or across the board who's recruiting me to come play for their university. And that wasn't how it was back in the day. You know, when Southern was a powerhouse, you know, though we didn't have all these different variables that go into making a program. You make a program now, and you can ask anybody in the business. You don't have to take my word for it. You make a program now, day by freaking day, because you just don't ever know. You got kids now that understand the rule that, okay, I'm not really feeling this. I've played in 4 games. Yeah, coach, I'm going to take this red shirt. And they play 4 games. They shut it down. There's nothing you can do about it. They've played 4. They've practiced. They've got college, reps. And now, come to find out, some group of 5 have been recruiting them the whole time to come play for them. So they basically use you as a farm league, a JV, however you want to put it. Get this kid up to college speed, and then in January, this kid's gone to play at a group of 5 somewhere. And now you're right back to where you thought you had the foundation of a program. Now you're right back to trying to fill that in. And that's the day and age of college football, where it wasn't like that 3-4 years ago. But it's like that now. So you've got to decide what you want as a program, as a university, and you got to be willing to stick with it, I think. But if you got money like Texas A&M, man, to throw it out continuously every 2 years, every 3 years, I mean, sign me up for that every day.
I'm gonna go kick my kindergarten self in the butt when they were asking, "What do you want to be when I grow up?" I need to be the fired head coach at Texas A&M, because $76 million to leave, I'm taking that all the way out the door.
19 within the first week of leaving.
Then $7 million, coach. It's like 7 points, seven and some change million every year till 2031 for Jimbo Fisher.
Even if he gets another job. And the sad thing about it is somebody's going to give him another job.
Yeah, for sure. Or if he doesn't want one, he can go work for ESPN. Yeah,
not
easily.
That he needs it.
Yeah, no, he can work for Fox or ESPN or hell. Well, I mean, coach, with the independent, like this new media age, he can just start his own show and people would listen.
Oh, ain't no doubt. And he can contract himself to different shows. I mean, guest pick'ems and all that kind of stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, he got a check today for $19 million. Well, next Tuesday. It's just, coach, and this, and listen, shout out to Scotty. I think he brought this up on his show, and it was a good point. The Trevis Barry hire is hot right now. Ain't no doubt. And I'm going to back 10-win seasons, 2 championships, no doubt about it.
And I'm going to ask you this. If Trevis Barry is the number 1 seed in one of the regions in the D2 playoffs.
Yep.
If he loses that game in the first round, they get a bye week, so their first game, so technically the second round, if he gets blown out again in the playoffs, does that stop the hype train?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Should it?
No. It's not. I'm not going to say it shouldn't. I'm saying it's not going to stop it, because at the end of the day, he's probably flown out to this interview, to that interview. Not that he's not paying attention or taking care of his program, but there's so many other things that are going on, so many other phone calls that he's taking. So, I mean, the powers to be would always have that to lean on, outside of, the fact that, okay, he got boat raced in the playoffs 2 years in a row. This second year, he had a lot of things going on. Didn't really put the time in, yada, 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 that kind of thing. It won't stop it. I think it's on a runaway track right now. And the only thing that's going to stop it is his next landing spot, because he's not going to be at Benedict next year.
Yeah, I don't see him at Benedict next year, whether it's Southern or another job. I'll say this, coach. Do I think it's going to? No. It's a runaway train right now. There's no lever you can pull. There's nothing can happen to get it off the rails before it's too late. I will say, though, it would raise a lot of red flags for me. And it's because, coach, me and you have had this conversation about out-of-conference struggles.
Yep.
Is your team good, or is it good in your little diaspora? Are you a nationally good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a nationally good team, or are you just D2 HBCU good as a team? And if you go and get blown out again, because remember last year in the first game they got torched in the playoffs. If it happens again, because this is just like the 4 seed they're facing. They like because they got a tough region, coach. They got Delta State and West Florida in their region.
Yeah,
That's
I saw
brutal.
that. I was like, man,
That's just that's disgusting, is what it is. But that's the conversation a lot of people are going to have, and it's kind of the same conversation that surrounded some of these top SWAC schools. Do you want a coach that can build a national contender, or do you want a coach that can just win conference games? Because there's a coach on the hot seat right now that had that famous quote: "I don't get paid to win out of conference games. I get paid to win. I only get paid to win SWAC games." To me, if you're Southern, I think you got to expand it beyond Trevis Barry. Now, Trevis could be a great hire, and I'm not saying that if they hired him, he's not gonna win. You at least have to do yourself the service of doing a national search, not just a SWAC search, not just a D2 HBCU search. Bring in FCS candidates, bring in Power 5 coordinators, bring in everybody. And if Trevis is still the guy, ride with Trevis. But we saw this with this Dooley hire, coach. They knew Dooley was getting hired before they let Rollins go. Yes. They knew he was the guy. They knew he was the guy. Now, there was, oh man, I forgot the name that I suggested. Oh man, I'm gonna look it up while you talk. But in your opinion, is that if they don't do a national search and they just go get Trevis, is that going to hurt them moving forward?
I don't think so, because they've already shown that they have the power or the willingness to erase it. I think the biggest question, or the bigger question in this situation is, okay, you go make this Trevis, here's the keys, see you Monday morning. Are you committed to giving him everything he needs? And that's from the assistant coaches pool, salary pool, to facility fixer-uppers, upgrades, whatever you want to call it, and just having total control of the program. Are you committed to doing that? And if you're not 100% on that, then you've got to stop. You've got to stop and look at yourself, and again, your expectations. Because if you're only going to allow him to say, hey, your top assistants can only make this and your coordinators can only make this, if you're going to cap him out, you're going to be right back here again. Yeah. You're going to be right back here again. And then that's going to limit your search. There's great coaches in this league. There's great coaches in the MEAC. There's great coaches in all of 1AA, FCS. If you're not willing to take on the initiative as a program, as a university, to open the checkbook, then you probably won't do that national search, because people outside of this, when they come in, they're going to say, hey, well, I've got to be able to go get my coordinator, and I've got to at least be able to pay both of my coordinators 6 figures. Yeah. My next assistants, my lowest assistant that I can go get a quality guy, he can make no less than 75. Well, now what are we doing? Are we saying, okay, cool, tell us what it is, we're going to stroke the check? Or, whoa, no, this is how it is, and this is what you get. Because, again, national search is going to bring national money. So they've got to decide where they are, and then they've also got to, not that Trevis is going to take a low ball, but they've got to decide if they're going to just, give the keys, coach, hands off, you got it. We'll support you with everything, not support you, but we'll support you with everything you need and what you want 100%. And of course, he's going to want all that in writing. And, that's going to be one of those things that will later come out to see. But I just, national search, I'm with it. You're a national brand. You should do yourself the favor of seeing what's out there and then make the decision. But if you're not willing to take hands off and give it to the person that you give the keys to, why bother? And don't hire a search firm. because the search firm is not on campus. They're not in Baton Rouge. They just come in and you tell them what they want, and then they find. Don't do that. That is the worst waste of money to me. I never understand why people do that, because those people that you hire with that search firm, they're not on campus. They're not there on a day-to-day. They may be there for a week, and they don't understand any of the inner workings within those gates of the campus. So how are they going to find the best fit for your program if they're not inside your program? That just don't make sense to me.
The chat just trying to rob Alcorn. D-Lob said they should Thornton or no, my bad. Cedric Thomas should be considered, and then of course Coach Leroy Frederick should be considered for the job. But the name I was thinking of, which I think he might be out of the price range now because he just got a huge upgrade, Jabbar Jaluk. He was the running back coach at LSU, but now at Florida, I want to say, he was promoted to associate head coach, which that comes with a hefty price tag in the SEC to be the associate head coach. So I think he's not, but at the time that Southern was hiring Dooley, this was the name I threw out, and he might have been more affordable at the time because I don't think he was associate head coach at LSU at the time. But Jaluk has so many Louisiana ties. He was right there in Baton Rouge, like. He was one of the top. He was one of the top recruiting guys for LSU. And listen, LSU recruits at a very high level, and he has those connections in the high schools. I thought Jaluk was the guy last time. That was one of the names I threw out. There was another one. I'm blanking on who it is. Hopefully, someone puts it in the chat. But
Jabbar Jaluk just for that.
No, I think him and Jerry Mack are kind of in the same conversation for me. I think Jerry Mack's making way too much over at Tennessee to ever come back to be a head coach in HBCU football.
No, and Tennessee wouldn't let that happen because they would just be, okay, what they offer you, okay, boom, we're going to double down. The same thing with Coach Jaluk, because they don't want to lose that tie. So I'm drawing a blank as well. Coach Joseph.
That was Yes, that was the name I was forgetting. That's the one that I wanted to.
Yeah, and he'll always have that price tag with him because he does so well in Louisiana. Just like if said schools wanted that recruiting tie to Texas, I'm not sure who would be the hot guy, but that's what they would, Texas or Texas A&M would pay that price to keep that guy there because he's so well connected. He does really well in the state. So that's what they would do to keep that Louisiana tie. And I just, Florida would sit back and say, hey, have at it, man. Go get the experience with the interview. But before you accept, let us know what they offer. And then when he came back and let them know what they offered, they would just double down and say, hey, boom, we love you. This is what it is. Now, he may have enough money already to where he says, you know what, I want to go back and this is what I'm going to do. But at the end of the day, he's going to need people around him as well. And this day and age, man, I'm just telling you, it's tough to find guys for less than the 50 mark, so to speak. And that's on the low end when we're talking FCS. You got to have a lot of incentives in with that thing, housing, just different things to entice guys to jump up and move from Gainesville, Florida, so to speak, to Baton Rouge. Nothing against Baton Rouge, but, that's a lot of mileage to move a family, find a place to live, so there's a lot man may not understand that goes into this, not only as a head coach, but, the head coach finding assistants. Like Idaho would have to pay me some money to come because I need winter clothes. I'd have to get winterized. I have to do all that stuff. But that's the fine line, in the business.
Well, I also did forget it's so Joseph, if you remember, isn't employed anywhere right now. Remember he after he was the interim head coach at Nebraska, you remember he left LSU to go to Nebraska, interim head coach. He had that, what was it?
Incident or whatever.
The incident, but it was dismissed.
Yes.
So he's just sitting on the couch. So that might be like a low, not a low option. He's still going to require some money, but not as much as if he was still on Nebraska staff or LSU staff.
And even if he came back, you've got to ask yourself, how long are we going to keep him? Because as soon as, you know what I mean? Are you looking at I don't think we had that on our show. We can say his name. Are you looking at another Coach Prime situation where he comes to Southern for 2 years, shows that he's the dude, he can do it, and then he ups, and now you're right back at it? Or, that kind of situation. So, I mean, it's a lot of things going into that.
Last thing here before we move on to the news out of Texas, and we're over 30 minutes in. I think we might just have to change the title. Listen, this is a coaching show. We'll have the preview on Thursday. Someone mentioned that there's been a lot of people who have speculated on have administrators, have fans put unrealistic expectations on coaches since the Prime situation at Jackson, in terms of how quickly you should be able to build a program, because we know like a Fred McNair, a McKinney, a Dooley, a Willie Simmons, you have to go about it a different way. And then there was also a conversation about, has TC's ability to win year one, winning 7 games, put even more pressure on other coaches? I don't know necessarily about that, but I think it's a more conversation about this the last 4 years at Jackson, I think has skewed a lot of fans' opinions on what it takes to really build a winning program.
I agree with you. I think Coach Prime put a unrealistic expectation on not just HBCUs, the SWAC, but on college football in general. But we'll stay here in this neck of the woods because that's how we kind of brought it up. But I definitely think so. But I said from day one that there's only one Coach Prime. There's only one Deion. And a lot of these kids' parents grew up under that umbrella that Deion was at the height of his playing career. And I think that swayed a lot of things. But if you go back, which was always my argument, if you go back, he was able to get skilled people. We were all able to get skilled people. He was able to get a few big guys here and there, but he was able to get people because of who he is. Not as a coach, but who he is, who his name is. I really believe that. But if you go back and you look at his 2 years, there wasn't just a boat racing every week they played somebody. There was games that they struggled that they had to come back and win. There was games that they probably should have lost, but, were able to make a play here and there. But the end-all be-all is that he went undefeated in the conference. And I think people look at that, and then they did a great job of marketing. You can't find another program. I'd even go to Group of 5 that did a better job of marketing their program. And right now, I mean, that's just the height of what it is. That's what the kids want to be a part of, not taking away anything from anybody else. But the way they marketed that program, the way he carried himself in that program, I think made everybody else look around and be like, hey, why not us? But and I'll bring up Tennessee State. Coach George's great playing career, but his personality is not Deion's personality. He hadn't been able to turn his NFL stardom into, I think, what Deion did here. Same thing with Coach Hugh Jackson. Coach Hugh Jackson has all kind of NFL experience. He hadn't been able to turn that into what Deion did because there's only one Deion. And I think we as fans, as administrators, have to look at that and be like, okay, who else could we go possibly get that could have the same impact as a Deion? There ain't many. If you know one, tell me. Possibly Ray, but even Ray is not a Deion. And Deion said himself, he never went into one kid's house to do a home visit. So
you can't do that. Like, I mean, and that's the thing is like, I hate even bringing it up, but like that's been the conversation on social media is like, how did we get here where a coach who was in the SWAC championship last season is gone? Like, how did we get here as a conference? How did you get here as a business? And is like, okay, so what are the expectations for new coaches? And that's why I think the way Southern handled this job, to me, it helps me set an easy short list because you can't have a first-time head coach come into this.
Oh,
If
no.
you're getting 2 years to win, you better have been a head coach somewhere, and you better know how to build a program fast. Has to be an elite recruiter. And on top of that too, has to be willing to go out and go get some of the best coordinators in the country. That's going to be key, coach. You know this. Even if you're a great head coach, if you surround yourself with bad coordinators, a bad staff,
it's hard.
you're not winning.
Yeah, it's
You're
not
not.
hard.
You can't overcome that. So it just makes it tough because let's shift to another SWAC job, and I'm sure it's all connected anyway. Texas Southern reportedly is not going to renew Coach McKinney's contract at the end of the year. His 5-year contract expires on December 15th. And it was reported today that they made the decision not to extend him. The AD denies the reports, but multiple other people are hearing from inside the program that it's already been confirmed. It's already been told to the players.
Yeah.
This week has taught me one thing, Coach. The disconnect between some universities' administrations and the new age of college football and social media is very wide. You cannot tell your players that you've made a move at head coach and that news not leaked within 24 hours.
24 hours. 24 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you made the decision to not extend your head coach, to fire your head coach, don't tell anybody unless you're ready for it to leak or you're going to make an immediate announcement. If you think you can make a decision, if you can, it's the same. Coach, I know for a fact Southern did not want the Dooley news to get out till after the Bayou Classic. They told people inside the building, and less than 24 hours later, it was all over social media, and that forced their hand today to fire him. I'm telling you, I will not be surprised if McKinney's gone by Monday.
You hit it. I mean, you can't even tell him. And everybody that was in that room that made that decision has to sign a paper stating that if this gets out, regardless of who. It was only us 5 in this room. Everybody in here is going to face a fine because we ain't got time to chase back who gave it up, but somebody in this room, because nobody else in this room knew. You know, it's got to be one of those deals because even if you tell him, he's going to tell his wife, who's going to tell her sister, who's going to say. So, I mean, and then if it gets to the kids, it's over. The kids that like him are gonna feel some way about it. The kids that didn't like him, they're gonna feel some way about it, and it's gonna be a race to put it out there. So if you're not ready to come 100% forward with it, it's just best to keep it amongst the circle that makes those decisions, and then go with it at that point. Because if you're not ready to go on Monday, you shouldn't tell anybody on Monday that that's what your move's gonna be next Monday. It's not gonna work.
I mean, and can we put something in perspective real quick? I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to like, I'm not saying that he deserves to have his contract renewed. Like, we all kind of saw McKinney as one of the names on the hot seat. Like, this isn't a surprise to anybody from anywhere. I don't think it's a surprise to McKinney. What sucks, it's still, in the grand scheme of things, not fair to him. Knowing that this information is now leaked out there, where he's got to go into a locker room potentially now and coach this team this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know. What are we doing?
What are we doing? Like as a unit, what are we doing? You have people telling players about short list and that it's fire because you have to recruit the roster. You obviously don't want to lose your best players, so you're telling your best players what's going on because you want to keep them in the loop.
The portal. Yeah.
And then you're surprised that it leaks when you're keeping players updated on your roster what's happening. Then you're like, man, can't believe the media disrespected the university by leaking it. It's like, you're the reason it leaked. This isn't on the media. This isn't on the players. This is on the university for poor management. If you're going to fire somebody, fire somebody.
Yeah, just do it.
Don't half-step do it and then get mad that someone reported that you were half-step doing it. That's still your fault. And it's in the age of college football, Coach. And the bad part is, I don't think some of these schools, especially in the FCS, even know how bad it is on the Power 5 level. The Power 5 level, someone could sneeze, accidentally write down their coaches being fired, shred it, and Pete Thamel somehow tweeting it out 20 minutes after. Like, it's not even that bad at the FCS level because there's only a handful of people that actually take the time to make the connections to know this kind of stuff, and you still can't get it right.
I just, again, even with the two, the Baton Rouge situation, this situation, and they were both situations that they tried to walk back. The Southern situation, I guess we kind of knew about that, the rumblings two days ago. Then finally they just had to come with it because they see, some of the players were already on social media with it. It's not a good look. You're exactly right. It's not a good look from outside looking in. And I say that because you have people's livelihoods at stake. Now, Coach McKinney's not like me. I'm sure he doesn't have a shoe habit. I'm sure, he 5 years at what they say his salary was. He made close to $1 million, and I'm sure he didn't spend it all on shoes and hats. So he's fine. But there's other people that are connected to him that may not handle this as well, as he would handle it. So you've got to be more sensitive about this to where you at least bring him in and say, hey, this is what it is. And we're going to make it public at 5 o'clock. Now, we're talking to you at 3 o'clock. Now, what you do with it now is what you do with it. But we are releasing a statement at 5 p.m. Now, that gives you time to go home and talk to your wife, your children, whoever you need to talk to. We prefer you not to say anything to the kids. Lay out the guidelines. But you have to be more sensitive just to the human element of this. And I think at times as fans, we aren't really connected to that part. We see coaches as coaches. And, we are hired to do a job, no doubt about it. But, there's still people that we call family. There's still people that we call friends that may not fully understand the business. So at least give the opportunity to tell those people in your inner circle what's going on, not having to hear about it or be called and say, sorry to hear your husband got fired. And I'm sure his wife is like, what? That kind of thing.
It's gotta be surreal because, I'm on the other side of it. So I'm in the media side. It's gotta be surreal. One, not to like, especially if they didn't tell him, like, this just leaked. Like, let's just say it just leaked and they weren't telling players, even though we know that's the case. It's got to be surreal to like go on Google and like see you're fired or the university's part ways.
Or start getting calls and texts.
Yeah,
like, man,
it's got to be surreal. It's got to be the weirdest feeling in the world. But I think as programs, I get it. And what I was told is he hasn't done, I'm not going to say this about everyone on the staff, but he's done a very good job. This sounds weird saying good job, but he hasn't surrounded himself with anyone they trusted to be the intern, is what I heard.
So how do you work this?
Which is why they kind of half-stepped it.
Yeah, so how do you work this? If that's how you feel, you hold that till the clock hits 0, and then you go from there. You don't have to be ruthless about it, but I remember a couple of years ago when they said SC fired Lane Kiffin after an away game. He's heading to the team plane, and the team's boarding the plane, and they pull him to the side and put him on another plane. You don't have to be ruthless about it, but if you feel that way, just wait, because it ain't but one game left. Just wait. What are you gaining by not waiting if you feel that strongly about not having anyone in-house to be named the interim for a couple weeks? I mean, because at the end of the day, after that game's over, all the interim is doing is what? Making sure the kids continue to go to class. They don't burn the building down. Exit meetings, hold it in place until we name somebody, because you've got to have a short list. If you're talking about doing this and there's a first signing day in December, you got to have a short list of where you're going and who you expect to be able to take this job, or you're going to find yourself right back here in 3 years because the guy that you brought in January wasn't able to recruit because he got the job late.
Oh God!
There's
I
just
mean,
so many moving parts, man. And I don't think the fans or administration actually understand the moving parts. Because let's just say you come in and you fire. Okay, cool. It's November. School is probably in for 2 weeks in December, and then the kids are gone for a month. But you still have a signing period in December that you've got to have somebody out on the road continuing to recruit to sign somebody in the December signing day that is going to come into your program in January. Not many kids are going to come into a program, especially when they have options, that they don't even know who they're going to be playing for. Okay, you send me out, Bluebloods University, to recruit, but I'm sitting in front of Zach. Hey, I'm the receiver coach. Don't know who our head coach is going to be, but we would love to have you here. How's that kid and that parent going to be like, yeah, we're coming? We don't even know if you're going to be there, let alone the head guy. And you might as well wipe the December signing date out. Now, school comes back the middle of January. You've had the guys on campus. The kids don't know who this is. They're hearing things secondhand, on social media. Maybe you're calling a few team captains, stuff like that. But that guy's got to hit the ground running. He's got to hire assistants. He's got to get with the team. And he's got to get guys on the road. They've got to identify kids. And they've got to be ready to go for that first Wednesday in February. Or guess what? There's going to be kids that already hit the portal. There's going to be seniors that graduated. Now you're replacing all of that in a matter of months with kids that aren't going to get to your program until July. And here we are again in December sitting at 2-8. And people are mad saying I was the wrong hire. Well, I had to fill the roster with guys that just was out there because we couldn't recruit anybody. So there's got to be a timetable on all of this. If this is what you're truly wanting to do, you as administrators at the top, you've got to have a timetable, and you've got to be 100% stuck on what you're doing, because it can set you back even farther than where you think you are now. Let me get off the soapbox, man.
No, it's all good. I mean, I think it's good, man. I think this was a hell of a conversation. I mean, look at what Raymond Woody had to do this year.
When did he get the job?
February?
Yeah. With maybe 2 weeks before signing day. No.
I don't even know if it was that.
It was after.
Let me see. When did they announce it? February 6th.
First Wednesday in February is signing day.
He got hired the day before National Signing Day.
And we all know what turmoil he followed. It wasn't a smooth, easy transition. No. It was rough as the goat before he came in there. God.
And I mean, I don't know what else there's got to be some sort of like expectation, right? I mean, I get the whole, Bethune was an interesting case. I'm trying to take them out of it because, I mean, no one saw that situation going like that. I mean, it was just chaos for like
a month.
Yeah, that might have been one of the worst hires in FCS football history.
That took a hard left.
That was tough. But Coach, we're sitting here in the FCS. Stony Brook party ways with their coach this week. Southern fires Dooley. Texas Southern reportedly is not going to re-sign McKinney. In Northwestern State. Of course, their coach resigned after the tragic situation that happened there. We're sitting at 4 openings right now. It's November 14th. I'll be 100% honest. I thought we'd be closer to 10 at this point of the year. With 1 week left in the season.
I think the run, as they say in the NFL draft, I think the run is about to start.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people was waiting on the first one to fall. And now I think the first fell. And then the second would quickly fail. We think it failed, but then it got walked back. And then, I think the run on it is about to start. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it kind of goes in the business. And a lot of them are usually done 2 games before the end of the year, so I'm like you on that. But I expect a lot of things to happen quick after this last game, just because I would think people would have their posts on the program, on recruiting, the new way of doing things in college football. So I think we're about to, unfortunately, I think we're about to go on a run of a lot of head coaches being asked not to come back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've kind of stuck on HBCU football throughout the show. I mean, there's at least one job I'm on real hard because, like we talked about, that Bethune-Cookman loss.
It was ugly.
There was a lot of, and this Thursday, coach. So in 2 days, Valley comes to town.
Man, look here.
If you take off, listen, I'm just gonna say this, and I like Coach Maynard. I know a lot of guys on the staff, a lot of guys on that team, not rooting for it, but every bit of football IQ and information I've been getting from that program says if it's even close on Thursday night, it might be the end of an era in Huntsville.
I was saying the same thing. If that game's within 14 points, or an ugly 21, it could probably be, that's it as well. And, again, I think as coaches, you have an idea. I think but it wasn't that long ago that he was holding up the trophy
with the best quarterback in HBCU football.
Graduated a lot of people. Had 2 receivers that were dogs.
That are now balling out at the Group of 5 level.
Leave your program. It's a different day, man. It's a different day.
I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't think I'm missing anything. I mean, now I don't think he's on the hot seat per se. If something crazy happens in the Bayou Classic,
oh, no doubt.
Oh gosh, you're talking about some tough conversation, like, because something's gonna have to change, whether it's head coach, which I don't think that's the case, or coordinators. Someone's gonna the change is gonna have to be made, because I mean, what are they sitting at right now? 5-5,
and then some crazy scenario. Someone called, and so I'm not on X this week, but some crazy scenario. Someone called and said that there's still a way that they could get into the championship game, and I'm just like, this is absolutely crazy.
So here's what happened, Coach. If you guys lose, if PV loses and Grambling wins, they win the 3-way tie.
It's absolutely crazy.
And it's because in the 3-way tiebreaker, the first one I think is like head to head with the next highest rated team in the division, which is a team that all you guys beat. So it would move to the next one, because the next highest team would be Southern. Yeah. And then it would move to division record. And so you guys would drop out at that point, because you guys would have the most losses in the division. And then it would revert back to head between PV Grambling, and Grambling beat PV.
That's a crazy scenario, because we would have 2 in the West, the PV and
Texas Southern. And their other loss came in the West. I mean, in the East.
Who beat Grambling? Other than we beat Grambling
and Alabama State.
Alabama State beat Grambling. Yeah.
So it was a cross division game. And talk about like getting to go because you lost the right games. Just insanity.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, Coach, even the MEAC, and this is something we were going to talk about today before all the coaches stuff happened. The MEAC still has 3 teams that could go to the Celebration Bowl.
Absolutely. And Morgan's in the hunt. I can't believe it.
Can I say this? If the MEAC messes up and lets Damon Wilson get to the Celebration Bowl this year, y'all are in trouble.
They've got to change something up.
The MEAC is in trouble. If the MEAC lets Damon Wilson find a way to win the MEAC this year with the team that he has and that offense, Oh, just wait till he gets a quarter. Oh my, it's going to be a problem for the MEAC.
Yeah, ain't no doubt. But before we go, and before I forget this fact, this question that I had when we were talking about Coach Taylor and Jackson, I think the pressure is even more now on him to build off of what he's done at this point, those 7 wins, because there's still naysayers out there that are saying that he won 7 games or whatever with what was left. Even though he was on that staff, with what was left there. They recruited off of what had just left there. That's how they got the number 2 or whatever recruiting class. If he comes back next year and wins 1 less game and don't get to the championship game, I think they are now looking to be in what the Southern situation is now, simply because of what happened 3 years prior to. So I think when we talk about expectations meeting reality at the crossroad, I think that's where that ends up at. Anything less than a championship, I think pops up for him as far as, being in the same category as Coach Dooley. I think, and that's just me.
I'll push back on this. Jackson has more loyalty to TC than Southern had to Dooley because of who TC is to that university. Now, if he doesn't do it, like if he regresses or doesn't, take a step forward the next 2 years, that 3rd year, I'm with you on that. I'll be honest. I don't think it mattered what he did this year or next year. I think Jackson's that loyal to him just because of who he is, and that's why he was the guy. If they would have hired it, if they would have hired externally, I would have been with you. But I do think that TC's got a way longer leash than Southern gave Dooley, because Southern said, we let a winning coach go because we wanted you, and you failed to even live up to what. I mean, let's just be honest. Dooley wasn't even able to do what Odoms was doing.
No, and they were on Odom's head because he went to the championship game 2 years in a row and couldn't get passes.
That's what I'm saying. So they let this guy that was way up here go, and he failed. That's a whole different situation than what happened to Jackson. So I think that's why the pressure was on Dooley. I just think the expectations were dramatic. And like I said, I've heard that there was some just behind the scenes stuff that kind of like exasperated the issues on top of that, in terms of, there was a lot of talk on who they wanted to call the plays. And there was a lot of ego involved in terms of not wanting to let the reins go, and coordinator hires, and it's politics at the end of the day. So like, as much as it's about wins and losses, how you recruit, man, if you're not getting along with the guys that make the decisions,
and
the guys that write, and even more than the guys that make the decision, if you're not getting along with the guys that write the checks,
you're not along for that place.
I mean, it's sad. It's sad. I'll say this: I'm interested to see what Dooley does next, because he was succeeding as like at the end. I know Southern fans aren't going to like to hear this because they were very unhappy with this play calling. Does he go get an OC job? Does someone take a chance and offer him another head coaching job? That's going to be very interesting, even at the D2 level. Because, Coach, I'll be honest, there's a lot of rumors that Sam Shade could be in the running for the A&M job if they make a move. Could one of these D2 programs go get Dooley? There's a lot of conversation surrounding what.
I don't think Dooley's a D2 guy.
The suit's not going to hit the same at SIAC Media Day or CIAA Media Day.
He'd have to come shop with me at Dillard's, man, Men's Warehouse.
No, I mean, but Coach, real quick before we get out of here, it was a wild weekend. South Dakota State did their thing, 34-0 win over Youngstown. It was dominant. They clinched the auto bid for the MVFC. Nichols, Coach, dominant win over Lamar. They clinched the Southland bid. and they can clinch the outright title with a win over Southeastern Louisiana on Thursday. Another big rushing day. Listen, Jalen Spears, 177, 2 touchdowns, over 340 on the ground rushing, Coach. And UT Martin, third consecutive conference championship. That's where I was this weekend. They're still probably going to look at a potential at-large bid there. Listen, SEMO's offense, 162 total yards. They held SEMO to 5 rushing yards, 0.3 yards per carry with All-American running back Geno Hess. It was an absolute clinic for that defense. And despite Paxton DeLaurent being out, Harvard clinches the Ivy League, 10th Ivy League championship under head coach Tim Murphy. Coach, Tim, I don't know if you know this, Coach. Tim Murphy has been the coach at Harvard longer than I have been born.
I did not know that.
Tim Murphy was hired as the head coach at Harvard in 1994.
Crazy Moses.
I mean, 288 as the head coach at Harvard, 10 conference championships. Hey, I guess if you're having success, then roll with it. But he was hired 2 years before I was born. So that's a long Coach, we just got done talking about the toxicity of college football. And this guy's been baby. Hey, at Harvard, you could be a 28-year head coach in 2023, bro. Setting the standard. But Coach, the game I wanted to talk about before we got, or the 2 games I just wanted to briefly hit before we get out of here. Howard shocks the world this weekend. Coach, I still can't wrap my head around this. I mean, 50-20. And I wanted to this is the reason I wanted to bring it up, Coach. Do you remember Trey Oliver's interview at MEAC Media Day?
Man, I saw that Saturday night, and I don't know who came up with that, but I was just like, if they would only use their powers for good, whoever decided to post that, whoever thumbnailed that and was able to get it back, hats off, man.
I mean, he said we put up 50 on Howard. Why would anyone want to see that game again? Coach,
who's paying to come see that again?
Coach,
would you?
And in the most epic turn of events, going for 2,
man,
with 2 minutes and 38 seconds left
to get to 50,
just so you can score 50. Can I say this? The pettiness is on a million on that. But I support. I mean, Coach Larry Scott. Listen. He's been on the show. I've talked to him at me at Media Day. That is one of the best moments in FCS football this year, and I fully support it 100%. You have to make that statement. And Coach, I don't know about you. I think that earns your team's respect even more in the locker room. He was like, listen, I don't care about sportsmanship. When he put the 2 fingers up,
you knew what it was about.
His team was sold.
You knew what it was about. And Coach Scott's a good friend of mine, man. Just a kid from the 863. So we're from the same area. So, that kind of is how we brought up, eye for an eye, petty for petty. But all about how over 500 yards of offense, held DR to 77 through the air, and ran for 244 yards at almost 7 yards a clip. And when you get to the point that it's on obviously he had it wrote down somewhere, it was stamped in his memory. When they got to it and they had the opportunity to get to 50, there was no hesitation. No. It was best 2-point play we got. Let's get it.
I will say, I want to give a shout out to Darian Brokenburr, who was an all-conference guy 2 years ago, kind of got overshadowed by some of the other stars that have emerged in Morgan and stuff. This was a signature game, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks for Howard. You mentioned the running game, but Coach, they really suffocated Central. Central had 121 yards rushing. 76 of those came on that one explosive play from Davius early in the game.
Quarterback, yeah.
They held them to like 120 yards of total offense for the game outside of that one explosive play. That's domination in every aspect of the game. Casey Hawthorne had a big game at wide receiver.
Yeah, over 100.
Now, Trey Oliver comes out. He said it wasn't an excuse, but he did mention it, and we had to report the news that Davius Richard dislocated a finger on his throwing hand, which is kind of why they went away from the pass at a time. But still, man, I don't think that it didn't matter if Davius was fully healthy. Howard was the better team this past weekend. And now you're looking at Howard. They beat Morgan. They go to the MEAC championship. If Howard loses to Morgan and Central loses, Morgan goes to the Celebration Bowl. Or if Howard loses and Central beats Delaware State, which is probably going to happen. I mean, it's Delaware State this year. Central ends up still going to the Celebration Bowl. If all else fails and Howard wins and Central wins, Howard still goes, and Central probably gets an at-large bid in the FCS playoffs. Coach, the speculated first-round matchup would be Western Carolina Central, which just has my heart.
Yards.
Oh my God!
1,000 yards of total offense.
Timothy texted me and said, "Are you going over under 80 total points in that game?" And I was like, I'll still take the over on that. But I mean, Coach, it was a domination. I will say there was a play, Coach. I don't know if you saw it. There, I want to say it was left or right guard blocked one of the Central defenders. I'm talking about almost through the bleachers.
Yeah, took it to the side.
I took them, like, you know, they had like that little.
Everybody got out of the way.
Yeah, and then afterwards, it was like a little pushing match. Like someone called it a brawl. I don't think it was a brawl, and they threw a 15-yard penalty. I know you're a wide receivers coach, so I mean, you probably don't have wide receivers blocking people into the bleachers. But as an O-line guy, if I'm the O-line coach, that's one where Fred McNair says he's got to run bleachers the next day. I'll run them for him. I'm taking that to set the tone. I'm taking one of my offensive linemen, putting someone over the bench into the bleachers.
Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll take that all day.
I'll take the penalty. I'll run bleachers with him. I'll do whatever the punishment is. I'm taking that as a coach. And then finally, Coach, man, Idaho. It's man, I know. I know you were hoping we would end not talking about this one, but Coach, Weber State shocks Idaho 31-29. Vandals now eliminated from Big Sky title contention. Maybe they'll probably still get the top 8 seed, but I think they lost their opportunity at a top 4 seed this weekend. Coach, Weber gained 291 total yards, but they averaged almost 6 yards per play, which outpaced Idaho. They overcame a 10-0 deficit and still found a way to win. Shout out to my guy, Winston Reed, 17 tackles coached, only 72 yards on the ground allowed against Idaho. What were your thoughts, Coach, of the Vandals' collapse this weekend?
Man, you talk about that. You talk about the Braves. You talk about the Eagles. There was some more that was mixed in there. Chaos didn't care who it showed up to see. This was one of those ones where I expected more. But I guess offensively they got what they needed. They just couldn't come up with a timely stop. My guy, your guy, Hayden went off. You know, my guy back there calling the signals had a good game. Just couldn't get the stops. And I think that when you're up 10 and you can't string out the first downs to 4-minute offense the game out, those things come out to bite you. And they may now have to figure this thing out on the road to get close to a title. Now, I wasn't picking them for a title, but I was picking them to make a run. I was shocked when I got to the scores and saw that one. I'm not even gonna play with it. I was shocked when I saw that one.
Yeah, and I'm like you said. I mean, like I said earlier, South Dakota State dominating win. I don't know what. I mean, listen, there's not even anything to break down. They're just that good.
And they did it through the air.
Yankee
went crazy. Almost won.
Almost
won the Fly Zone Receiver of the Week. Almost.
Yeah, I got to ask you before you announce it, because we talked about a few names. I can't believe I'm asking you if we're going to do this. I really think we should consider breaking our own rule about the kid had to win the game, because there was a kid, like, I just don't know how we don't give it to him.
I think, well, after we went over the yardage and what he did,
God, man.
I wanted to send him something honorable mention anyway, but I'll let you give him that, and then we'll get to the winner, because people are not going to believe these numbers.
Yeah, Damir Miller for Monmouth went 11 for 333 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns.
Plays receiver. We're not talking about a running back.
333 yards on 11 catches, coach, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, what do you? Shout out to him, man. Listen, he was an all first team all conference guy for me in the CAA. He's putting up all American numbers, but just absolutely insane, man. So he definitely deserves a shout out because, man, he
We got to
went
get his information. We got to
berserk.
send him something.
Oh, I think I can reach out to him because, man, that might be the best performance we've seen all season.
Oh, up to this point, ain't no doubt. Just so happened that they dropped a game by what, 2?
7.
7 by score. So D Miller actually did his thing. It was really scary hour out there for the DC and the DBs when a guy's going just absolutely crazy like that. But the winner, now I need you to dig and figure this one out for me. Villanova, Rajan R. Pringle, 5 for 180, 2 TDs, averaged 36 yards a catch, man. Kid went absolutely crazy. And the funny thing about it is it was hard to pick because there were so many guys that went well over 100 yards this week in wins and losses from the receiver position, man. And we all talk about it being a dependent position. So some guys were blocking up front. Some guys were making the right reads, putting the ball where it needed to be. Morehead State, Ryan. So is it UPP? Is that up still? What's Ryan's last name? How would you pronounce that?
I think it's still up. Or
Ryan went crazy. 5 for 140, 3 TDs. Carter Bell, 7 for 126. South Dakota, my guy, one of the twins, the Yankees, went crazy as well for like 127 or whatever, 2 touchdowns. So guys were on display, man, out wide this week. But the winner, my boy Pringle at Villanova and Mr. Miller just made it scary out for everybody, man. I want to see what his numbers are next week because if he's not doubled and with a spy making it a triple team, I want to know what the thought process is about that because this kid just went for over 300 yards.
It's just insane. I'm trying to pull this guy up, man. I want to give my
zone.
I want to give my guy Isaiah Wooden a shout out, man. My guy over at Southern Utah. Coach, for the past 3 weeks, so 3 weeks ago, he went 9 for 119 and 2 touchdowns. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, he went 7 for 168, 2 touchdowns. And this past weekend, he went 5 for 123 and 4 touchdowns.
5 and 4 of his catches were touchdowns.
I mean, what? He's went up over 350 with 8 touchdowns in 3 games.
3 games.
And on top of that, Coach, he's also their return specialist.
Yes, does a little bit of everything, man.
So shout out to my guy Isaiah Wooden, man. I mean, well, we could have had 3 winners this week.
Easily.
It's just insane, man. So shout out to the guys, also Anthony.
Battle, sponsor. Thank you, guys.
Shout out to Walk On Apparel, guys. If you're a SoCon fan, man, they just released an ETSU line. Had some great pieces in there, man. Make sure to go check out Walk On Apparel. Man, listen, guys. Thursday, we got our preview episode. Heck, man, with the way the coaching carousel is going, we might have even more head coaching changes to talk about. We're gonna do a lot of storylines with super dog picks, the whole 9, man. It's gonna be a huge week, Coach.
We didn't even get to cover those, so make a note. We got to go back to see how we did last week.
Yeah, so we got to go back and cover a lot, man. Shout out to Charlie. Man, I was gonna make it up for that game, man, but the plane tickets were like damn near $2,000 to get up to Missoula.
What's going on up there?
The Montana State game is this weekend.
You think that jacked the prices up?
Well, it's also
like you're going to Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm also live in Mobile, Alabama, so it's a long way to get up to Missoula, Montana. But listen, I'm going to make it to one of the Montana schools for the playoffs. That's what I told myself is I'm gonna find a way to get up to one of those games for the playoffs. I don't know if I'm traveling this weekend because with the playoff committee announcing Sunday morning, man, I got so much stuff to get done on Saturday night in terms of bracketology and oh my god, man, it's just insane. If I do go somewhere, I'm going to be in Jackson. I've already decided that. So definitely going to go for. And I'm not calling it the Capital City Classic. It's a Soul Bowl.
I know that.
I don't care if it's in Jackson, it's a Soul Bowl anywhere it's played. Anytime Alcorn State Jackson play, even if it's ever in the SWAC championship, it's a Soul Bowl. Not even the SWAC championship. I like the Soul Bowl a lot better. We need to get a trophy, Coach. We talked about that. We need some sort of trophy to commemorate the Soul Bowl.
Coach Taylor, man, if you're listening, let's get together. Let's create something.
I think the fans will buy into that. I don't know. Listen, if you're a Jackson or Alcorn fan listening, man, put in the chat, put in the comments if you're listening to the replay. I think we need to make a push here to get the Soul Bowl, the trophy.
Let's come up with something.
But man, a huge weekend. A game of the week, obviously, Montana State. Preview will be on Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. A huge game between Jackson and Alcorn State. We're going to talk about it all on Thursday at 4:30 live right here on YouTube. Recording will be available on all podcast streaming platforms. Check out si.com/college/FCS for all our FCS content on FCS Football Central. But guys, for Coach Fred, for myself, for the Blue Bloods and FCS Football Central, we are out for right now.